Hello friends, this is the second tutorial in Oracle Database 12c administration, how to create a listener. So before creating, we have just installed the software, we have not created the database, and before creating the database, we need to create the listener. So after we create the listener, then only we can create the database. We could create a database, but to use the DBSA, we would need a listener. The DBSA can create a default listener, but let's learn how to create the listener. The listener can be created using a GUI utility called netca, and we just follow the steps, or we can manually edit a file called listener.aura file, which is present under Oracle Home Network Admin. So let's go to that particular location first. So here is that location. And right now you see there is no file called listener.aura. So we need a file called listener.aura. This is the default file where all the listeners are defined. So what we will do, we will launch a utility called netca. And then we'll say listener configuration, we'll say add, and then we'll give the name of the listener that we want. So in this case, we will say listener v12. The reason why I'm saying listener v12 is because I want, this is for the version 12. So this is the, I have installed Oracle 12. That's why I'm saying listener v12. You can name your listener based on the database, based on the instance, based on the SID, is your choice. I am naming it as a SLR v12. Now TCP, and then choose the port. Default port will be 1521. I'll use 1522 because it's Oracle 12 12, so I'm using 12. If it was Oracle 11, I would have gone for 1521. Then would you like to configure another listener? No. So next, and you see here it says listener created and listener is also started. So now if I go here, I will see instead of two files, I have this particular file called listener.aura file. Now I'll just see. So this is the file that we specified. It specifies, it uses the TCP for this particular host, and it is listening on port 1522. And if you see here, LSNR CTL is the utility, it has already started. So if you LSNR CTL has, if you want to stop the listener, let's say instead of stopping the listener, what we'll do is we'll see the status LSNR CTL status LSNR v12, the name of the listener. So this is the status, and the listener supports no services. The reason being there is no instance or there is no database, and hence it is not supporting, and it shows how long it is up, what is the start date. Now what we will do is like we will stop the listener. So I'm stopping the listener. The command completed successfully, and now if I see the status, it says basically it no such file and it errors out. So the protocol adapter error because the listener is not up and running. So the command that we saw is to start the listener, we'll say lsnr ctl start lsnr v12. So the listener has been started. To see the status of the listener, you will say, and to stop this listener, we'll say stop. This listener we created using LSNR v12. What we would do, we will drop this particular listener. Now to drop the listener, I could just delete that particular file called listener.aura. Instead of that, I'll show you how to do it using netca. So now using netca, I'm saying listener configuration, and I'm choosing delete. I'm choosing LSNR v12 and yes, and then I'm going to okay, listener stop failed. The reason is it has been already stopped, so deleted listener, and it has already deleted the listener. Now if I go under this particular location, that listener.aura file is no longer there and it has backed up this particular file. So what I'll do, I'll remove this particular file. Now I do not have any listener. So if I try to start this particular listener, it will fail because this particular listener is not there. So it will literally fail. So listeners fail to start. Now what I would do is I will manually edit a file here called listener.aura, and under this particular file I'll specify exactly same that we saw under the listener. So this is how the file looks like. Now if I go and if I the command which failed here, listener failed to start, I'll use this particular command and now my listener got started. So this is the way we could create manually a listener, or we can use netca. So this is the way we can create the listener. I hope this particular tutorial was helpful. Do stay tuned in. I'll be uploading more videos on how to create a database in the next section.